On this episode of Just Informed Talk, why has the mainstream media decided not to report on the fact that China has taken an active role in meddling and influencing our elections here in the United States? Hi, I'm Craig, and welcome to Just Informed Talk. As always, thank you to all my subscribers. Thank you to everybody who's hit that button. If you haven't done it already, please come here to the landing page, click the big red subscribe button, make sure you hit the bell for notifications so you be notified when these videos get posted. So here's where we're going to pick up with the latest Q posts. And this is where we left off. If you guys want to get caught up to a rat, I encourage you to come back here to the landing page, watch this video going back. It'll give you a good idea of all the QAnon posts and what information was covered there in previous drops. And also, if you're scratching your head going, what's QAnon, the Great Awakening, I encourage you to come here and watch this video. And that'll give you a good idea of what QAnon, the Great Awakening is, how to do the research, where to find the information, so on and so forth. Just a great tool. Great resource for you to use. And even if you know all that stuff already, you can share all these videos on your social media. And when you do that, you're actually getting the word out, and you're fighting the censors that exist here at all of these different social media platforms. So I will talk about that a little bit later at the end of this video. But for now, we're going to get right into the latest Q post. So first, we have Dianne Feinstein. This is a previous post from September 27th that Q is reminding us of here. And it's just a picture of a car traveling, a Mercedes traveling down a highway that's basically got these Chinese flags here, so we know it's in China. And it says Feinstein Q. So Q is suggesting that Dianne Feinstein is inside this car, which would make a lot of sense given her close relation, her and her husband's close relations with China. Her husband's a very successful businessman who's had many, many deals in China, made millions of dollars in that market and in Asian markets surrounding that country where China has a huge influence. And what Q wants us to look at is this. Number 297, right, which is the Q post here. Where was this picture taken? Hanging of flags traditional occurs in this part of the country for what holiday? And then it gives this Bloomberg article, which basically this Bloomberg article talks about the new evidence of hacked Supermicro hardware found in U.S. telecom. Now, basically this whole story is that there is a microchip, and we're talking, when we say microchip, we mean micro. It's about the size of the tip of a pencil, if you can imagine that in your mind. And it was put onto many motherboards that were used in all different facets of our government, so, and our private sector. And what they basically did is they forwarded information from computers to secret anonymously placed computer servers that would then forward that information back to China. So it was a hardware hack. Now, most people associate hacks with software because software is the most vulnerable to a hack attack, if you will. And that means that if you download a program, that it may have some malicious malware in it that can target your computer, or if you go to the wrong website that's not secured, you can pick up a virus through the cookies, or if there's a myriad of different ways to pick up a software virus. But a hardware virus is something completely different. A hardware virus is when there's hardware that is built into a system that makes your computer and your components vulnerable to a hack anytime they are activated or turned on. And that's what China has apparently pulled off against our country. Now, there's been various reporting on this about how it happened and what actually happened. But to give you guys a better idea, I'm going to play a clip out of a guy who I really respect and admire. His name's Chris Chappell. He runs a channel called China Uncensored, and I'm going to leave a link to the video and obviously a link to the channel in the description at the end of this video. And I want you to watch his explanation of what this microchip scam was. And when you guys are done with that, I really want you guys to go over to his channel and basically start watching that content, like it, subscribe to it if you're interested. But he is definitely, and his team are some of the best reporters in the whole, sphere of reporting that go into the truth of what's going on in China. So let's watch it.
Here's what's alleged to have happened. There's a company called Elemental. They make cubes that shoot other cubes with lasers, I guess. Actually, they specialize in video processing and storage. Their technology has been used for everything from helping stream the Olympic Games to communication with the International Space Station to even handling drone footage for the CIA. In 2015, Elemental was bought by Amazon. Wow, Amazon really does everything. Elemental is an American company, and their main product is assembled by another American company, Supermicro Computer Inc. They sell more server motherboards than almost anyone else. One U.S. intelligence official told Bloomberg, think of Supermicro as the Microsoft of the hardware world. So like, Microhard. No, forget that. That's a terrible name. Anyways, it turns out Supermicro's core product, their motherboards, are mostly made by contractors in China. So what seems to have happened is this. Agents for the People's Liberation Army strolled into these contractors' factories and offered some bribes to change the motherboard design ever so slightly. Just add this one teensy-weensy little extra microchip, okay? Of course, if that didn't work, they threatened factory managers with inspections that could shut down their plants. And while one tiny microchip doesn't sound like it can do a lot, it doesn't have to. According to Bloomberg, they were capable of doing two very important things. Telling the device to communicate with one of several anonymous computers elsewhere on the internet that were loaded with more complex code, and preparing the device's operating system to accept this new code. And this would give the Chinese military complete access in a very hard-to-detect way. For example, they could make a secure machine not ask for a password. That way, hackers from China could just waltz right in. Now, for a long time, many Americans believed that China would never do something like this, because it would jeopardize China's place as the workshop of the world. And so everyone was happy being naive, taking advantage of China's low prices. Meanwhile, China continued to play a major role building global computer infrastructure. And so companies became dependent on China. Oopsie. The fact that China has been a major state sponsor of cyber espionage is nothing new. Back in 2015, there was even an agreement between Xi Jinping and President Obama that China would stop stealing U.S. intellectual property. That was the same year the Chinese microchips were first discovered. One official told Bloomberg that the White House may have suspected at the time that China was willing to offer this concession because it was already developing far more advanced and surreptitious forms of hacking founded on its near monopoly of the technology supply chain. Not that the U.S. government could do much about it, because it was the big American companies that were actually to blame for exposing themselves to the China supply chain, and they refused to listen to the government's warnings. So it shouldn't surprise you that both Apple and Amazon have denied the Bloomberg report. Except the company's denials are countered by 6 current and former senior national security officials. In fact, not only did the companies know about it, according to those officials, but Apple had reported their discovery of it to the FBI in the first place, and Amazon went even further by cooperating in a government investigation about it. But of course, neither company said this to the public, if it happened at all, because as I said, they totally deny it.
So I hope that clears that up to a degree. And then it gives a quote out of this article that Q gave us from this Bloomberg piece. It says, quote, Western intelligence contacts that the device was made at a Supermicro subcontractor factory in Guangzhou, a port city in southeastern China. Guangzhou is 90 miles upstream from Shenzhen, dubbed the Silicon Valley of hardware. What state does Feinstein represent? And then it gives this Washington Post article which talks about the fact that Senator Feinstein had a Chinese spy working for her for a very long time, I think almost 2 decades, if I'm correct. And this is a story. Now, first of all, you guys are probably wondering, why aren't I seeing an article? Well, it's because I understand, I'm not a big fan of boycotting or any of that, but I understand that I vote with my dollars and I refuse to give 1 red cent to the Washington Post because I refuse to pay for fake news and I refuse to support people like Jeff Bezos, especially when it comes to buying off Amazon, reading the Washington Post, all that stuff. I don't do it. So that's my choice that I've made. But basically, this article just outlines the fact that Senator Feinstein had a Chinese spy basically working for her for a very long time. But it also goes into much more than that. Knowing the story as I do, basically Senator Feinstein has very, very suspicious connections with the former leader uh, of China, Jiang Zemin, who basically was the mayor of, I believe, Shanghai, and Dianne Feinstein was the mayor of San Francisco, and they had this sister city initiative where they were basically all buddy buddy, and then her husband gets all these big Chinese contracts and starts making money over in Asia and other countries that have huge industries based off of Chinese investment. So it was really, really suspicious if you look at the history of Dianne Feinstein and her connections to that. It says Google and China, and then it gives this Intercept basically article here, which is actually talking about the fact that there's a leaked transcript of this guy. His name is Ben Gomez. And who is Ben Gomez? Well, he's one of the lead engineers over at Google. And what he was in charge of, apparently, was this whole China search engine, which is going to be censored. And it's just one of the most disturbing stories you'll ever hear in your life. So what we're going to do is I'm going to read this first part of the story to you. The second part of the story actually has the full email that was basically leaked to The Intercept, which shows him talking about all of these different things about how he, completely, how it's the biggest market ever and how they should definitely want to be in China and how they think everything China does is so great, how the communist oppression is so wonderful and how it will work so great for them because they'll be in their rich little bubbles and they'll be making millions of dollars while the people who they are basically creating this software to discriminate against are being targeted by Google itself and the Chinese party because, Google's already basically discriminatory or has exhibited signs that they are not or that they are willing to discriminate, as I've shown you before here on this channel with myself in particular. But I want to read this article to you guys because it gives you a better idea of what's going on here. But it says, we have to be focused on what we want to enable, said Ben Gomez, Google's search engine chief. And then when the opening happens, we are ready for it. It was July 18th, and Gomez was addressing a team of Google employees who were working on a secretive project to develop a censored search engine for China, which would blacklist phrases like human rights, student protest, and Nobel Prize. Quote, "You have taken on something extremely important to the company," Gomez declared, according to a transcript of his comments obtained by The Intercept. "I have to admit it has been a difficult journey, but I do think a very important and worthwhile one, and I wish ourselves the best of luck in actually reaching our destination as soon as possible," unquote. Gomez joked about the unpredictability of President Donald Trump and groaned about the ongoing trade war between the U.S. and China, which has slowed down Google's negotiations with Communist Party officials in Beijing, whose approval Google requires to launch the censored search engine. Gomez, who joined Google in 1999 and is one of the key engineers behind the company's search engine, said he hoped the censored Chinese version of the platform could be launched within 6 to 9 months. But it could be sooner. Quote, "This is a world none of us have ever lived in before," he said. Quote, "So I feel like we should or shouldn't put too much definite into the timeline." It has been 2 months since The Intercept first revealed details about the censored search engine codenamed Dragonfly. Since then, the project has faced a wave of criticism from human rights groups, Google employees, U.S. senators, and even Vice President Mike Pence, who on Thursday last week called on Google to, quote, "immediately end development of the Dragonfly app that will strengthen the Communist Party's censorship and compromise the privacy of Chinese customers." Google has refused to answer questions or concerns about Dragonfly. On September 26th, a Google executive faced public questions on the censorship plan for the first time. Keith Enright told the Senate Commerce, Science, and Transportation Committee, and just a side note, we showed these clips on the show here, that there is a Project Dragonfly, quote unquote, but said, quote, "We are not close to launching a product in China," unquote. When pressed to give specific details, Enright refused, saying that he was, quote, "not clear on the contours of what is in scope or out of scope for that project," unquote. Senior executives at Google directly involved in building the censorship system have largely avoided any public scrutiny, but on September 23rd, Gomez briefly addressed Dragonfly when confronted by a BBC reporter at an event celebrating Google's 20th anniversary. It says, right now, all we've done is some exploration, Gomez told the reporter, but since we don't have any plans to launch something, there's nothing much I can say about it. Gomez's statement kept with the company's official line, but it flatly contradicted what he had privately told Google employees who were working on Dragonfly, which disturbed some of them. One Google source told The Intercept Gomez's comments to the BBC were quote-unquote BS. In July, Gomez had informed employees that the plan was to launch the search engine as soon as possible and to get it ready to be brought off the shelf and quickly deployed, unquote, once approval from Beijing was received. Gomez's remarks to staff, which can be read in full below, highlight the stark contrast between Google's public and private statements about Dragonfly. The secretive project has been underway since spring 2017 and has involved about 300 employees, the majority of whom have worked full-time on the plan. It was far beyond an exploration, and the plan to launch it was well developed, as some of Google's own employees have themselves highlighted in recent weeks, despite the company's efforts to suppress such information. Gomez's remarks also shed light on why Google is interested in returning its search engine to China after a noisy departure in 2010, when the company announced that it, quote, could no longer continue censoring our results, unquote. They're due to concerns over free speech and security. In explaining to staff why the work on Dragonfly was quote-unquote extremely important, Gomez referenced the sheer size of the Chinese market, saying, "We are talking about the next billion users for Google." He also called China the most interesting market in the world today, and says, by virtue of working on this, Gomez added, "you will act as a window onto the world of innovation that we are otherwise blind to." Since Gomez offered this optimistic take, the public exposure of Dragonfly and the backlash that has ensued, both internally and externally, appears to have unsettled Google's leadership, and it has created a degree of uncertainty around the direction of the plan. However, according to sources with knowledge of the Dragonfly, engineers working on the censored search engine, acting on instructions from management, are continuing to actively develop it. The Intercept contacted him for comment, and he didn't get back. So I'm going to leave this article in the links, and this is the full email right here if you guys want to actually read it, where he basically talks about all this stuff that they highlight in this article. But I thought that was definitely worth sharing. So there you guys go. Now, what Q is basically saying here, when we look at this, is he is saying Google and China, giving us this article talking about Dragonfly. It says, look here, it's all about Russia. Do not look here, China. And then it gives this video, which we've covered before here on the channel, which is Vice President Mike Pence gives this great speech a week ago, I believe, where he talks about China in detail. And he talks about all of the very important issues that are front and center. And as you heard in that report from The Intercept, Mike Pence has come out openly against this, and it basically said that China is doing this censored, or Google is doing this censored search engine, and that Mike Pence was calling on them to stop enabling the communist government of China to continue to basically victimize their citizens with this censorship and this targeted discriminatory practices, these targeted discriminatory practices that they've been able to basically encode into an algorithm that they could use against their own citizenship. And one of the scariest things to me about this whole article is that when you read it and you read this full email, which I'll let you guys read when you read the full email from Ben Gomez here, it is very disturbing because they talk so favorably about the communist Chinese and how they're the next billion and they're the future and they're this and they're that, and how we really need to work on learning from them. Yeah, what are you going to learn, excuse me, Mr. Gomez, what are you going to learn from the Chinese communists? how to basically be an authoritarian, how to restrict people's rights, how to basically target them for discriminatory practices, to target them for political censorship, to target them for a complete shutdown of their freedoms and rights. Is that what you need to learn from it, Google? Is this the revolution you're seeking? That is really what they're doing over at Google, and these people are shameless and they're completely feckless as patriots because they don't have any patriotism, 1 ounce of it in their body. All they have is a love of money and a love of self. And when they have those 2 things, they don't care about anything else, including the well-being of you, your family, and this country as a whole. So remember that when you look at Google kind of in a very reflective manner, you have to understand that what's going on here is very big, and that these people are basically look at this guy. This Gomez guy is basically all but saying, we love China. We wish we could have this stuff here in the United States so they could shut down people like myself and others and Q and shut down the whole movement. You guys out there want to shut down your voice. They want to be able to censor you in your home. They want to censor everything you do, everything you see, everything you read, everything you hear, because they know controlling information is the way to control the world. So they've taken that stance, and this gentleman right here, this scummy little weasel who works at Google, is just another part of the bigger problem here, as he's telling all of his employees how great their work is for the Chinese Communist government so they can continue to restrict human rights and to target political dissidents for censorship, and even worse in some cases. So remember this face right here. This is the face of Google. And you know how they said don't be evil was their original motto? Well, I think that's kind of changed now, and you guys can guess what their new motto is or should be. So then Q says Q gives, like I said, this YouTube video of Mike Pence. And then it says, worth 43 minutes of your time. All inside roads to China are being closed. America is no longer for sale. Q. So, to break this down quickly, since we've taken a lot of time going through it, I want to just share the basic gist of it. So, the picture was taken in Guangzhou, which is a province which contains other provinces, including Shenzhen, and I think it was Guangdong is the province, and then it has Guangzhou, and it has Shenzhen, and these Chinese provinces are basically like the Chinese Silicon Valley. It's where all hardware is basically manufactured their own. They've basically gone full out against that. And it says, what flags traditionally are hanging as a part of the country for what holiday? Well, it's obviously, I believe it is the National Day of the People's Republic of China, of course, which is celebrated, who'd guessed it, every October 1st, right? And so Red October, maybe, there's another double meaning there, that Dianne Feinstein was spending a holiday over there in the People's Republic of China, the communist Chinese country, for their celebratory holiday that celebrates communism and its authoritarian regime. And I'm sure they even take time to celebrate all the many people, the millions of people who lost their lives to Mao Zedong and his authoritarian dictatorship that was ruthless in taking out the dissidents and those who disagreed with the party. So, and that's what, don't forget, guys, that's what this guy wants to bring to America right here. That's what this gentleman, Ben Gomez, your great Google guru here, wants to bring to us. So don't forget that, okay? And this talks about how in the Bloomberg article that the devices were made in Guangzhou and basically in Shenzhen, which is Silicon Valley, and of course the Silicon Valley that Feinstein represents over in California. Obviously, they're all working in cahoots, and that's why they're going so hard against us right now. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But Google and China, and you have the direct connections between Feinstein and China, and yeah. So we're going to leave that one for what it is for now. But then it says here in the next one, it's this Market Watch article, which talks about how President Trump's going to be increasing the ethanol, basically, concentration in gasoline. And Q says, increase ethanol corn concentration in gasoline, effort to combat China's attempts to harm our farmers, announcement tonight. Q, Now, that announcement was made tonight at the rally that President Trump held. And what they talked about was pretty simple. They just talked about the fact that they'll put more ethanol into the gasoline. Now, there's a lot of ups and downs to it. Some people with older cars definitely is negative because they're made to handle ethanol in their systems. Newer cars shouldn't have a problem. Big problem is they usually restrict the amount of ethanol that is allowed to be put into gasoline in the summer months because it actually creates a larger amount of smog. But another bright side to it is that it will actually make gas cheaper because ethanol is much cheaper. And if you add 5% more ethanol into the gasoline, then the gasoline will become cheaper. So it's definitely a part of a sacrifice that we're going to have to make. And that's what I think that we don't do anymore in this country. We don't make sacrifices for our country, for our patriotic duty, because we all are so entitled. But remember that people have made a lot of sacrifices for our country, and if we have to have a little bit more ethanol in our fuel, and for the meantime to get through this trade war with China, I don't see that as a negative thing. But I'm sure you guys will leave your comments if you guys disagree or have anything else you would like to add. And yes, Q predicted, Trump did announce it. So there you go. The next one is actually talking about license plates, and Anon posts this picture of all the different license plates in the different regions of China. And of course you have the license plate on this Mercedes that is reportedly or supposedly has Dianne Feinstein in it in China. And the Anon says it's Guangdong. So Guangdong is this one right here, and it basically matches up with that plate. And it says Q says basically Guangdong, Guangzhou, and Shenzhen, are they all equal one another? And it says, do you believe in coincidences? Well, if you don't believe that, well, then you have to understand how the map of China works. See, Shenzhen is really the Silicon Valley of China. It's like the major hardware manufacturing city. But Guangzhou is actually right there next to it, and it's another very huge techie city. It's very, very tech forward, and they're probably a part of that Silicon Valley. But then the larger province that they all reside in is here, Guangdong. So what Q is saying is when Anon says it's Guangdong, it's actually Guangzhou and Shenzhen as a part of their like kind of provinces within a region, if you will. So the license plate would be for Guangdong, but that would apply for Guangzhou and Shenzhen. So that is what Q is trying to say. Q is saying that they all equal one another. Do you believe in coincidences? Q. So what the whole insinuation is that Dianne Feinstein was in Guangdong, which is Guangzhou, which is Shenzhen, probably traveling between regions, setting up deals with the Chinese, allegedly, and not to the benefit of the American people. So there you go. And now finally, the next one here is interesting. It seems to be a statement from the president, possibly, or that was approved by the president for release. But it says, a statement released October 9th, 2018. It says P Authority 1. Now, I read that as like Presidential Authority 1, like Air Force 1, I don't know, but this seems like what it would be. And if that is the case, then what this is a general statement from Q, but from the president, that's explaining why things are taking time, while also giving us insight into what is actually going on behind the scenes. So this is very important. I'm going to read through it, and then we're going to cover it really quickly. So it says, we understand that there is extreme fatigue and frustration regarding the wheels of justice slow. Exclude emotion and personal desire. Instead, use logic and critical thinking based on situational awareness. Undo a lifetime of evil and corruption. Infestation in the span of less than 2 years with a corrupt DOJ and FBI in place. Process and planning, law and order. Military operation. How can you make arrests non-military prior to first fully cleaning out corrupt elements at the top of those departments, FBI, DOJ, that oversee investigation and prosecution in the United States? They themselves are the very ones engaged in the illegal treasonous acts. Then it goes through a list of all these individuals. James Comey, fired. McCabe, fired. Jim Rubicki, fired. James Baker, fired. Bill Priestap, was power removed cooperating witness. Peter Strzok fired. Lisa Page fired. Mike Cortan fired. Josh Campbell fired. David Laufman, who was the department's counterintelligence and export control section, he was fired. Dealing with the email investigation, Hillary, the national security aspect of it. John Carlin was fired. Sally Yates fired. Mary McCord fired. Bruce Orr basically demoted twice and became a cooperating witness, and then termination is imminent. Rachel Brand, Associate Attorney General, fired forced. So some of these people, it says fired forced, meaning they were forced to resign, but it's the same thing as being fired, basically. Then batter's box. That, for those of you who don't understand that sports reference, the batter's box would be the people who are coming up next. And that's Michael Steinbach, John Glacalone, Randy Coleman, Tricia Anderson. Then it gives this article, which is a New York Times article that talks about Tricia Anderson being married to a man whose name is Charles Lawrence Newman, who happened to be, when they got married back in 2011, the deputy legal advisor to the National Security Council at the White House. And who was this woman, you ask? Tricia Anderson? Well, she was a senior counsel to the Deputy Attorney General in Washington. This is all around 2011, and she also was a clerk for Supreme Court Justice Elena Kagan. So what Q's going to keep telling us here is Kevin Kleinsmith, Tashina Gahar, Sally Moyer. How do you ensure those prosecuted non-military would receive an impartial judgment based on the rule of law? Think federal judge rulings, obstruction, POTUS's granted constitutional authority. How do you ensure appeals to the U.S. Supreme Court are evaluated impartially based on the rule of law? Think Justice Kavanaugh, 5-4. Military law versus criminal law. Enemy combatant, quote unquote. How do you navigate around installed blockade? Mueller, designed to take in evidence needed to expose deep state. DOJ block regarding Mueller evidence ongoing investigation. Mueller, designed to limit POTUS's ability to maneuver. Mueller, designed to stall for time until midterm elections to terminate all House Senate ongoing investigations. Mueller, designed to safeguard Democrat Party base false narrative regarding Russia collusion. POTUS cheated, evil, sky falling, in an effort to divide and mobilize for future protests, riots, threats, violence, false flags, etc. Mueller, designed to provide fake news with ammunition to sway public opinion, obstruct foreign plus domestic agenda, fuel impeachment removal, fuel anti-POTUS division, prevent unity, etc. Mueller, designed to demonstrate to foreign players that old guard still pulls strings. Mueller, designed to mobilize Democratic Party for midterm vote win. Mueller, designed to push Democratic backers to donate. GoFundMe, Democratic Party. Mueller, designed as public outcry excuse should criminal charges be brought against them. We are being politically attacked because Mueller. How do you remove install blockade? Declassify. How do you navigate around installed corrupt FBI DOJ? Use a stealth bomber. Who must authorize firing of FBI DOJ officials? Why did McCabe try to take Sessions out? And it gives this article from MSNBC that talks about that very process. It's really this news clip, and it talks about how Andrew McCabe actually tried to basically bring charges or start an investigation into Jeff Sessions based on this idea that somehow Jeff Sessions perjured himself. And then the further argument was being made by this klutz and moron. Having watched his video, I felt dumber after watching it. Even though I felt more stupid after watching it. But he goes on to talk about all these the whole story on how Andrew McCabe went after Jeff Sessions because he said he didn't know anything about Russian communications, and just a complete a great example of what a fake news story looks like, because they get all the facts wrong and they're basically giving you propaganda. So it's the double whammy of fake news. It says, what was the Sessions of Senate confirmation vote? 52-47. Number 175. Logical thinking versus clickbait. Q. Okay, there's a lot to unpack here, and I'm just going to go pretty quickly and briefly through each little point here. But what this statement is basically saying is that it takes time. The FBI and DOJ had been infiltrated and stacked with corrupt officials. And it's taken time for President Trump to actually get these people out of there. Q makes the great point here that all of these people are fired. I mean, is it really normal to go through and fire these people for an incoming administration? Some people would say yes, but at the same time, not in the way that this has happened, not with the evidence that's been coming forward, and not in the sense of having these people come in to testify, having them all become cooperating witnesses. This is very abnormal. And then Q tells us there are other people on deck waiting to be next. And it also says, how do you ensure those prosecuted non-military receive an impartial judgment based on the rule of law, right? So what it's saying is, when you think about federal judge rulings in obstruction and POTUS's granted constitutional authority, how do you ensure the appeals to this U.S. Supreme Court are evaluated impartially based on the rule of law? Well, you put Justice Kavanaugh in there. Because when these appeals are made, which you can convict somebody in a court of law, but if let's say you're convicting Hillary, right, for the misappropriation of classified information. Let's just hypothetically say that she does get convicted. I can guarantee you she's going to the Supreme Court, and if she had all of her little cronies in there and there was no majority, then one way or the other, then you could almost guarantee that the case would get thrown out, right? And it talked about, that what we talked about with Lindsey Graham in that little Q&A session where he talks about, 9/11, and then they talk about how people who help others commit acts of, terror against our country are just as culpable as the terrorists that commit the acts. And they would be technically considered enemy combatants who could possibly be tried under military law as opposed to normal criminal law. So this is something that's really a big deal. And then it goes into all these different ways that Mueller was put in, or all these different reasons why Mueller was put in. Basically, Mueller was designed, and it says, taken evidence needed to expose the deep state. So Mueller could take that evidence that would expose the deep state and say it's a part of his ongoing investigation, therefore it can't be released, right? That's what it is, the ongoing investigation ploy that they use all the time. Then it was to limit President Trump's ability to maneuver and designed to stall for time until the midterm elections. It's all pretty simple. And it was designed as a safeguard so that, you could have this whole Russia collusion base and say, oh, President Trump cheated, he's evil, the world's ending, in an effort to divide us and to mobilize their own protests, riots, threats, violence, false flags, etc. And also, Mueller's whole investigation is based on the predicate of giving the fake news its ammunition to sway public opinion, to obstruct foreign and domestic agenda, to fuel impeachment removal, fuel anti-POTUS division, prevent unity, etc. Mueller's designed to demonstrate to foreign players, basically to show UK and Australia and all them, oh yeah, the good old boys are still in control. We never gave up power, even though we claim to be in this republic that's a democratic system. But nope, the old people who are not in office anymore still control everything. That's sick and disgusting in a free and open society as ours is. And then it says it was Mueller was designed to mobilize people for the midterm vote. Mueller was designed to make the Democrats' backers donate, i.e. the GoFundMe's. I mean, look at Christine Ford and her $1 million GoFundMe. And it says Mueller was designed to be a public outcry excuse. So if we say, well, let's go tomorrow, right? Tomorrow, President Trump and Jeff Sessions put out indictments, and they pick up Hillary, and they pick up Obama, and they pick up all these people, right? They're going to turn around and say, oh, you're just doing it because Mueller's about to show how you're like this secret Russian spy, and you're completely politically attacking your political rivals, and you're a third world dictator who's trying to get rid of his political adversaries. When the reality is, all President Trump and military intelligence and the other Jeff Sessions would be doing is removing treasonous traitors who have betrayed our country, in my opinion. And that is what it is. And what Q says is, how do you install or how do you navigate around installed corrupt FBI DOJ? Use a stealth bomber. That's Jeff Sessions. And yeah, so logical thinking versus clickbait. You got to understand that the media is going to tell you all these lies. These are all their plays. Q has laid it out very clearly and succinctly as to what that all means, and I hope that that helps you guys navigate those posts better. But if you guys want to leave your thoughts, theories, and insights, I encourage you to go down in the comments and do that. Now, a few ways you can help the channel if you want to stick around. I got a special message for everyone who has seen the last video and knows what this channel is going through, and a few other things as well. But if you want to help out the channel, the best way to do it is to come here, click the big red subscribe button if you haven't already. That helps out the channel big time. Also, watch these videos, share these links, and that helps as well. Share it on your social media, get the word out there, and also leave your thoughts, theories, and insights down in the comments. Like I say, we try to have our own QAnon research board where we don't just talk about the Q posts. We talk about politics, culture, religion, everything in between, and it's great conversation. Even if you can't comment, I encourage you to scroll down and go ahead and read through the comments. Another way to help is to come here to the Twitter page, the Just Informed Talk Twitter page. It's officially at Justin_Formed on Twitter. Again, that's at Justin_Formed on Twitter. And you can get all the tweets here. You can get all the YouTube videos automatically get posted here. And you can get all the articles from the website over here as well. And if you're asking what website, the official website for Just Informed Talk, of course, it's justinformednews.com. And you guys can come over to this website and check it out and let me know what you think. So with that being said, there's a couple more ways you can support the channel. But before we get into that, I want to say thank you. You guys who watched this video and went over and contributed. So this video I put up here talks about how basically YouTube went through my entire video catalog, my entire library of videos, and basically removed full monetization from almost every video that I've created. And it's obviously an attempt to discriminate and to target my channel for harassment and this economic sanction that they impose against the people who they want to shut down. They tried to shut me down, and you guys showed up. All I can say is thank you to everybody who came and supported the channel on these two websites here. First of all, thank you to everybody who came over on Patreon and GoFundMe. But if you guys want to help out the channel in the face of that demonetization, help keep funding this work, keep it going 24/7, 365, please come over here to Patreon. That's patreon.com. And you can search Just Informed Talk. Click this button to become a patron. It's a monthly donation. When you guys do that, it helps the channel out more than you know. And I can only say thank you from the bottom of my heart to everybody who has come over here and contributed. Also, you guys can come over here if you're not interested in the monthly donation to do a one-time donation or an anonymous donation over here on GoFundMe.com. And that's GoFundMe.com/just-informed. And links will be in the description. But you guys, I have to tell you that your support after I put up this video, the amount of people who reached out, who shared incredible generosity, who shared incredible insight, who shared warm and touching messages of inspiration and just an incredible showing of how incredible you guys are. I'm humbled. I'm so humbled and thankful, and I've always put my faith in God. And when I saw the outpour of people who support the channel and who were ready at the drop of a hat to help me, all I want to do is repay the amazing generosity and kindness that you've showed. So I just can say thank you. I wish I could reach out and give every one of you a nice handshake or a hug and say, thank you from the bottom of my heart. But I mean, I truly mean that. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. And your amazing outpouring of generosity, kindness, and inspirational messages, and just all of it is truly humbling. And it just makes me want to work harder for this movement, to work harder for this channel, work harder for you guys, to work harder to bring the truth, to work harder to share God's word. It just reaffirms my faith in the mission that I've set out here with this channel. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate it and how thankful I am, because this is a big deal what they've done to this channel now. It's going to affect the ability for this channel to make money in the future. And it's going to take a long time to get over it if it is able to recover at all. But with the incredible support of people like you out there who support this channel, I have no doubt that this channel will be around for a long time, because you guys are amazing and your support is amazing. And like I said, I take it now as my duty to continue to work hard to share this information, to keep doing this work, and to keep fighting for you guys every single day. So that is just an incredible blessing. So also, before we go, one more thing. We're going to talk about God's grace and how it is truly greater. And for that, we want to go to a piece of scripture that I want to share with you guys. And I'll keep this pretty short because it's an incredible piece of scripture, and it kind of speaks for itself. But it talks about, what is God's covenant to us, and how will God work with us in the future to help us. And it just requires our faith in the Lord and understanding these simple words as shared in Isaiah chapter 59, verses 20 and 21. But it says, "This is the Lord's declaration. As for me, this is my covenant with them, says the Lord. My spirit who is on you, and my words that I have put in your mouth, will not depart from your mouth, or from the mouth of your children, or from the mouth of your children's children, from now on and forever, says the Lord." And that's a beautiful, but it's a simple but amazing piece of scripture, because it's a promise, it's a covenant coming from God saying, if we speak the word of the Lord and we live by the Lord, and we put him first and put him on high and make our lives about honoring him through speaking of his glory, that will continue into the next generation. So our children and our children's children will have that same gift. And that's why it's so important that we as Christians stand up for our faith, we stand up for what we believe in, and we stand up for God, and we represent the great glory that is God's grace in every situation, every day, every way imaginable. So I challenge each and every one of you to go out and keep sharing God's great grace, and share it with your family, with your friends, with strangers, social media, whatever. Get the word of God out there. Put out a positive message, because I can tell you right now that God is great, and that God's grace is truly greater. And it's always going to be there for you as long as you open your heart to receive it. So that's going to be it for me. I want to say thank you all for watching this episode of Just Informed Talk. If you guys haven't hit that subscribe button, now's a great time to do it. Come here, click the big red subscribe button. Again, I'm humbled beyond belief by your generosity and kindness and amazing words of encouragement. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. And God will certainly be with all of us as long as we keep looking to him in everything. So thank you for watching Just Informed Talk. My name is Craig. Godspeed and God bless each and every one of you, Patriots.